Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Sorry about that. There was a little bit of a technical issue for the show, but we are back and better than ever with the final segment of today's show. We are going to be previewing for the European Championships a little bit belatedly, but they are a very important team as they are defending champions, Italy. Italy are an exciting, fantastic team. Obviously, they are transitioning a little bit, especially in their backline, but their backline especially is talented because of that transition. A lot of young talent, both in that defensive unit and attacking-wise as well. So without further ado, let us get right into them. So as I said before, this is a little bit belated. They did have a game. They ran out 2-1 victors over Albania. A little bit harder victory to earn than people thought it would be. But overall, just a proof as to how industrious they can be when their backs are against the wall. I'm really thrilled that I'm able to deliver this preview to you guys because of their prowess. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, starting off with one of my favorite defenders in the squad, one of the best attacking left backs in world football, in Federico Di Marco. He is such an incredible athlete. When I think of him and the way he plays, he's not necessarily the fastest player. He doesn't beat you with his pace, but he beats you with his IQ. Fantastic crosser of the football. At €5 million, a very cheap option in your defensive line, especially if you are building from the back and rostering your team. Look for him to take a lot of set-piece deliveries, and he's proven he can score so many goals from outside the area, can cut inside, drift centrally, invert, whatever you want him to do. Such a versatile defender who will prove his worth to this Italy squad, especially in a trying group when they have to face Spain and Croatia, two talented teams in themselves, in their own rights. And so, Federico Di Marco, look for him to play a very integral role, especially as the knockout stages progresses. I'm not sure he's a group stage player, but his prowess can be seen should they advance to the knockout stages. Let's move from their defense to their attack. And ultimately, one of the players of the last year was in 2021 rather, because of COVID. Federico Chiesa. Only 2 goals in that entire tournament, but they're 2 big goals. And just his electricity and pace, obviously, just getting rotated into that team. And was his first ever tournament as a young player. Now, coming back into the squad, obviously, he's had some trying times where he was injured. And he missed a lot of domestic campaigns and games, so we'll have to see how he translates to the international stage. But when he does get on the pitch, he's one of the most electrifying players, one of the most enjoyable to watch players in world football when he's healthy. Just his movement on and off the ball makes Italian football so exciting to watch yet again. And I'm really thrilled, excited to see how Federico Chiesa progresses throughout this tournament. Now, let's look at their midfield talent. Their midfield is going to be a very vital part of how they play their game. They have a lot of rotation in that midfield, especially on their bench, but also in terms of who starts for them. And the player who I'm really thrilled about in this specific lineup and the way they set up is a young star from Inter, Nicolo Barella. He's not necessarily known for scoring goals. I think that what people see in him, though, is the fact that he's very technically gifted. His ability to understand the position at such a high level at such a young age, his IQ is so impressive. He's not necessarily going to be seen in and around the box, but be aware of how his ability to transition that midfield to attack can be seen because of the fact he is going to sit in the heart of that midfield and dictate play. He is going to be how the Italians kind of move the ball from their defense to their attack. And so, Nicolo Barella, at $7 million, he's more of a box-to-box midfielder. They're not necessarily as valued in fantasy as other midfielders who are more creative, like we've talked about previously on this episode. But Nicolo Barella was able to, if he's able to, get his mind into the game and let his technical quality show through, maybe he can bag a couple of assists, if not more ball recoveries. He's fantastic in terms of that mindset of domestic playing where he wants to get his teammates more involved. So look for that aspect of his game to shine through. I'm really excited to see how his Euros goes, especially in conjunction with Federico Chiesa, his partner in crime. Now let's look at their striker position. Their striker position is very intriguing. They've used a lot of players, Belotti in the past, but this guy, he's really just come onto the scene after a fantastic campaign for Atalanta, after trying times at West Ham. Gianluca Scamacca. Gianluca Scamacca, he had 12 goals for Atalanta this season in only 17 appearances, did have many of his appearances off the bench, as Atalanta had a fantastic rotation of attacking talent with Ademola Lookman. But for coming off the bench in only 17 appearances and scoring 12 goals, just go to show that Gianluca Scamacca has goals in him. Obviously, when you think of Italy, you don't necessarily think of prominent strikers. They're not the dominant position in their lineup. But Gianluca Scamacca can certainly be one of those guys who can poach a couple goals in and around the box. He is such a vital player for the squad that can deliver on so many different occasions. And I really believe that he is going to be one of those guys in these squads that can really, really help them as they go forward and as they go on in terms of how they play. And I think that he is going to be one of those key aspects as to how Italy plays in the box. Will Chiesa wish to cut and shoot inside, or will he lay it off to a guy like Scamacca, who we know can be a reliable source up front? And that is the question for Italy, as they still trying to figure out how to identify so many different players in this squad. And then, last but not least, let's go back to the defense, because the defense is the impressive part of this squad, in my humble opinion. Giovanni Di Lorenzo. He is also going to be very cheap as he sits in that back line. But in terms of ball recoveries, he is the guy for them. He is the right center back. He is going to be the guy to look for in transition. I think that his style of play certainly helps him, especially if Italy wants to progress up the pitch through their defenders. And so I do believe that Giovanni Di Lorenzo is not necessarily going to be the focal point of that defense, but he certainly can be in terms of his grit, his physicality, because a lot of Italy's defenders are more technically gifted, but you kind of need that enforcer as well. And he reads as more of like that Chiellini, Bonucci prototype, where he adds that level of physicality and grit to the style of play to kind of counteract the technical abilities of the defenders who surround him. So look for him to be the leader in ball recoveries and interceptions for this young squad. And then, like I said before, Alessandro Bastoni. Alessandro Bastoni is going to be one of those guys who, in that left-sided center-back role, is going to show more of his technical ability. Already has a goal at this tournament, so if you are looking for a player in your defense who is also a goal-scoring threat, then Alessandro Bastoni might be your guy. But he has also proven that he can be one of those more physical style center backs, especially in an Italy team that prides itself on their defensive style of play. And so, in my mind's eye, if anywhere in terms of this Italian squad is the place that you want to kind of focus on, if you want a good Italian player, look to the defense. The defense will not let you down in how they play and how they play their physical style of play, also translating to how they transition from defense to attack and getting it up to their more creative players, I really think makes Italy an intriguing option. In terms of whether or not I think they can repeat, they're in a very tough group. And as we saw against Albania, they certainly can be a little bit cocky in how they play. They are the defending champions. They hold that air about them. But defending champions don't necessarily get their way, as we've seen in recent tournaments. So Italy definitely has to be wary of this kind of mindset of, oh, we're going to come in and sweep this group, because they are in the toughest group. They did not get an easy path through to the knockout stages. And also, they are on the side of the draw where they might have to face a team like England or France, and they will make that game very difficult for them. But I do think that Italy does have that experience now, whereas before they kind of caught lightning in a bottle. Now they know what they need to take. They have players who are young, might have played as many minutes in the past Euros which they won, but they do have players they can rely on, and I'm really excited to see this Italy squad. But that should just about do it for today's show. Sorry about the technical issues. We will get that fixed as soon as possible. But do remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, especially if you've appreciated this episode. Leave a tip or donation at the link gsmc.cloud. If you do feel so inclined, it's a huge support to both me, the network, and my fellow podcasters. But without further ado, that will end the show. I've been Christopher Shepard of the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow with another fantastic edition of the show.